Thursday. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of True Story Live. Tonight's episode is titled Open House, Topics and Informal Chat, and that's exactly what we have in mind for this evening. Just to let everyone know, it may be an abbreviated version of True Story Live. Usually we go 2.5 hours. We do not plan on going that long tonight. It just will depend on how everything goes and how many comments we get and involvement and things like that. So it's kind of up to you guys too, a little bit how long we go. But we're here tonight for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it is to seek input on some topics to consider adding to our list. In other words, you get a chance to have your say as to what you would like to hear. Our focus for the next time period will be the items that have arisen from our shows since TSL recommenced. Secondly, feel free to bring up any ideas, thoughts, feedback, etc., as we are always looking to make the show as relevant as we can. The floor is open. Here's some of our suggestions for the shows themselves and our discussions behind the scenes. So here are some of the potential topics. Love, control, dating online, that's a good one. Online communication, red flags, need, intimacy, contentment, passion, closure, forgiveness, boundaries, secrets, sensitivity, etc. So we'll say hello to our panel members, starting with my tired, hardworking, industrious wife, Jen. Jen, how are you this evening?
I'm hanging in there.
Say hello to the peoples.
Hello, peoples. It's been a rough day. I hope all of you have had a better day than I.
Yeah,
But it's great to bed. It's good to be here, though.
Been a rough day for my babe, and just a long day for me with my new job. But everything's going well with that. So also our producer and our friend from Australia, Glenn. Say hello to the peoples.
Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Fine.
Right.
Hello.
Yeah. So we'll have Jen say hello to the people in the chat that have shown up so far, and then we'll get going.
All right. We've got Jalen here, Miss Stephanie, Mr. Liam, Mr. Glenn, Miss Yoda's baby mama, Celine, me, woohoo, Daryl, and that's it so far. Hey, guys.
Welcome. So as we talked about on Sunday night, and as we just went over, these are some of the potential topics, the ones I mentioned. And we would like to know if any of those topics stand out to any of you, anything that anyone is particularly interested in doing. And if you weren't able to make it to the live version of the broadcast and you hear it, you can still send your choices in. And that would have to be by email if you're not actually here, if you're listening to the playback. So you can send your responses to truestorylive.crips@gmail.com and share with us if any of these topics are meaningful to you or if you want us to discuss them. Or as the write-up said, it is an open floor and an open forum. So you guys can bring up your own topics that we can discuss. Yeah. Jen said Glenn does a good Texas. To me, it's not just Texas. It's a general Southern accent.
Drawl.
But it is amazing. You wouldn't even know he was from Australia.
Nope.
It's spectacular. So we'll have to see if he's willing to do it on air at some point.
That's awesome.
All right.
I saw Daryl did the hey Glenn with the little cowboy hat, dude.
Yeah, little cowboy hat, dude. It's good to see you, Daryl, and good to see everyone else here too.
Yeah.
So in the chat, like I said, just let us know if any of those are topics that you'd like to hear us discuss, and I will go over them, and we can just talk about each one briefly, and like what kind of things that come out of that. The first one is love, potential topics, and this one's a big one. It can go a lot of different directions. You can talk about familial love, love for family, relationship love, just general stuff. And there's all different kinds of love. I think biblically speaking, there's like 5 different kinds. Of the Greeks probably have more kinds than that. Love for God, love for animals, whatever, and not the gross kind, just in general, like pets and things. So lots of things on that topic. So if you guys are interested in that, in any way, that particular topic, then let us know about that. Control. And again, these are topics that could go many different directions. Control in relationships. It could be self-control. It could be feeling controlled by other people. It's just it's a wide topic with a lot of possibilities in there. Dating online. We were just kind of talking about this before the broadcast. I was making the statement that dating online, having done that before, has a little bit of safety to it, because you may not ever meet the person in person. So there's kind of a safety to that, and not everyone might agree with that, but at least for me, early on, it's been a long time, but when I would have dating online with someone that was on the other side of the country, and I knew that the chances of us ever meeting in person were probably slim to none. So there was a safety in that, but there's also difficulty in that if you were closer and there was a desire to meet the person, and then didn't seem like that was ever going to work out. So dating online, the pros and cons of that, and you could even share stories of your online dating situations. I certainly have some to share, some weird ones for sure.
That'd be entertaining.
Nothing entertaining, is that what you said?
Yeah, it ended with a great one though.
It did end up with a great one. Yeah, but ours was not a typical online dating thing, because we didn't meet in a dating service
site. Yeah, dating site. Nope.
Dating site. So, but we did date online for a while, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that did work out very well.
Yeah.
And in that same category, online communication. So kind of those two kind of fit together. That's a good one. How do you communicate online? What are the do's and don'ts? What's best about it? What are the downsides to it?
Yeah.
How does it make things difficult? How does it make things better? Things like that.
Yeah.
Red flags. Now, this one is a huge one. Red flags in relationships. And it's a term that I've heard used more recently. A lot of people know what it means, or at least seem like they know what it means. And it just simply means in relationships, generally, my interpretation of it is in relationships, when you see warning signs, you see things come up that mark danger ahead. And if the red flags are heeded, it can be a protecting thing. If you ignore the red flags, then you could be setting yourself up for danger. So we could talk about that. We have our first comment that I can see. Actually, Stephanie has had a couple. The first one she responded to is definitely control. She also likes definitely online dating, and then says the red flags is a must. Well, Stephanie, thank you for participating. I appreciate that. That's what we're trying to do, is get your guys' comments on what we talk about.
You guys. No, I know you hate that.
I don't hate it when you say it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
You guys.
No problem.
Hey, Cripps, do you think red flags are easy to pick up in person, or easier to pick up in person than online? Do you think you can closet yourself pretty well online if you want?
Oh yeah, I mean you can almost be anonymous and hard to read, in my opinion. In person, then you have several different ways to see red flags. The the way a person talks is only one of them, but the body language and the facial expressions, and
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's a completely different bag as opposed to online. Even if you're doing video communication, there's still you can see the other person's facial expressions, but it's still different in person. It's easier to not be show anger, in my opinion, online. Where in person, I mean, you can't stop yourself from sweating. If you're angry and sweat's pouring down the sides of your face, I mean, that to me is a
Or
it-
hair dye.
right. Stephanie agrees. She says people can hide red flags online. I would agree with that. Hello to John B. You weren't here right at the beginning, so we didn't say hello to you. So hello, welcome. Glad that you're here. So John B., if you missed it, we're having kind of an open forum to talk about topics for the show, things that people would like to hear us talk about. So any subjects that you have in mind, doesn't matter what, just put it out there for us and we'll discuss it. Celine says, I always feel like online dating people lie about who they are and stuff. And there's some real weirdos out there in a Chris Hansen voice. There's some real weirdos out there. I can't do Chris Hansen, never tried.
Hey, Crip, so why do people, you tell me, I must be simple-minded. Why do people want to go online and something they're not? What's in it for them, in your opinion?
It's like catfishing.
Well, in chat, okay, if it's a chat situation, it's an anonymity of being able to be a jerk, being able to say whatever you want to a person and not suffering any consequences because of it.
What about the flip side though? Acting like a kind person.
Well, I
and
was going
being
to
a weirdo. Oh, gotcha. You're getting to
I was going to get to that. So that's the
sorry.
That's okay. That's the negative aspect. And just like Jen brought up, so you can act all nice and friendly and untriggered by things and just act like you're the best person in the world, but in reality, you're not. Yeah, that can happen, and it does happen. I mean, how many stories have we heard of where someone dates online and they think this is the best person in the world, and then they meet in person, and they start to see over time that this is not the same person they met online. So
yeah,
what's in it for them? For me, is the anonymity of it. So you're almost anonymous in that way, and that goes for your emotional makeup too. You can pretend like you're someone else, literally. Even if you use your real name, you're still, especially if it's not face to face. If it's emails, like emails, you have the time to think about your response before you blurt something out. So
it's harder to do that in person.
It's harder to do that in person. You don't have as much time to think about what you're going to say before you say it. So things just tumble out of your mouth, and they may not be the things you want to say to the other person, especially if you're trying to carry on a scam, trying to fool someone and thinking you're someone you're not.
I think it's also to hook people. I think, if you're portraying yourself in a certain way online, and I think guys do this more because girls are more brought up with the whole fantasy of love and Disney. Not that guys aren't, but I think girls fall for it more.
Yeah.
But having someone believe that you're something and have them pretty much fall in love with this idea that you're presenting to them, that's easier to believe when you're not in person.
Right.
There's less cues
Right.
to pick up on.
Right.
And so then when you meet, or if you're still talking later and you flip and turn into a complete villain, not the Prince Charming anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it or explain it, but the person that the image that the person fell in love with, it's hard to let that go.
Right.
You want to hold on to that and think the person's having a bad day or something. And it's hard to recognize or realize.
Right.
This is the real person. The person that they portrayed in the beginning is not real.
Mm-hmm. The other thing is, you don't get to meet their friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
people they surround themselves with. Online, you could say, "Oh yeah, I got 1 million friends. I'm going out with so and so and doing this and that," and maybe you got no friends, or maybe your friends are a bunch of jerks, and you're not going to notice that online. Where in person, usually you meet the person's friends if they have any, and you meet their family, and you see how they treat them. And that's really something in relationships to see. Especially, they say to watch how a man treats their mother. I think there would be some truth to that. You watch how a person treats their mother, and that's you can pretty much determine that's the way they're going to treat you. I'm sure it's not always the case, but it's definitely something that you wouldn't really be able to tell online necessarily. Of course, the way I used to get mad at my grandma, Jen would certainly get some negative indications sometimes. Sure. What? She'd yell at me from downstairs, Jason.
You do that way too good.
What did she say? Do that again, Chris.
Jason.
Oh my gosh.
She'd say it from the bottom of the stairs. I was trying to talk to Jen, and I'm like totally in my own little world, focusing on us and something I enjoy. And I would go down before I would get on with Jen. I would go down there and check on her and make sure she's good, make sure she's got everything she needs. Okay, you got that? Okay, you're good. Got your TV station on. Okay, you don't need anything to eat. Okay, great. All right, I'm going to talk to Jen. So I go upstairs and
Get all comfy.
And get into good conversation. Then to the bottom of the stairs, Jason. She get lonely and just want. She knew I was talking to Jen, and she couldn't stand that. She oftentimes wanted attention, and then call me downstairs, and she'd be sometimes she'd hold the remote and she'd say, "Can you get my station back?" And I'd go in there and I said, "You're one station away. All you got to do is, it's just ridiculous."
Yeah.
But sometimes I handled it very well, and then other times, and it was depending on what kind of conversation Jen and I were having. If she was talking about something serious or something deep and emotional, and then there she was at the bottom of the stairs yelling up at me, then I would get more frustrated. If we're just, kicking it, that's a little bit different, but still same thing. One of the points John B. made is from the Bible, talking about Satan represents himself as an angel of light. And that's a good example, because the people do that too. There are people that represent themselves. That's what Paul's talking about in that verse, is people representing themselves as angel of light. They use Satan as an example. Even Satan does that. He represents himself as something he's not. So that's a good point, John. Thank you. And hello to Janet. Janet just popped in.
Did you read what happened?
About 12 trucks with countless men in boots, snow, and salt.
No, it's further up. She had carbon monoxide fill her house today, and the alarm didn't go off.
Oh, no. Are you okay? Well, you must be. You're on here, but...
She's got a really bad headache.
Okay, well, okay. Yeah. Take care of yourself. Rest your eyes for sure. We're glad that you're here. At least you can listen. You're not a drama queen. Oh my gosh, Janet.
No, not at all.
You don't have any control over that. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, we'll add that. We pray for you every night, Janet. So we'll add that to that part. So thank you for sharing that. We're glad that you're okay, and we'll pray that there's no other effects of that. Celine says someone can say they're 25 and beautiful and thin, blonde hair, but in reality, you can be an old creep scamming people for money. Yeah, or not even just money, Celine, but all kinds of stuff. I mean, Jen mentioned catfish, so this is an actual term that exists for someone that pretends they're someone else online. They might even use a different picture. Mm-hmm. They might be pretending to be a woman and be a dude. I mean, that's happened too. There was a show on for a while, and that was the name of the show, is Catfish. This guy would go investigate these stories.
Yes.
It was pretty good,
Horrible.
actually.
It
was
was good.
pretty good.
Horrible in the sense I couldn't believe
Right.
what people were doing. And
Right.
sometimes they were married and like the spouse was in on it.
Right.
So weird.
Yeah. Glenn was asking what's in it, like what's in it for those people, especially a married couple. It's getting over on somebody, I think, is part of it. There must be a delight in knowing that you're fooling
Duper's
someone, you're
delight.
duping, duper's delight. You're duping someone into believing that you're someone that you're not. Fooling.
Or maybe people just get joy out of the fantasy, even for them to pretend there's somebody else and that they have this life that they're making up. It's like living in a fantasy and
Yeah.
somebody else is believing you, but you're just living in this fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely living a fantasy. Yes, Lean, we remember Catch a Predator, that guy. Yeah, on Dateline. Yes, he apparently got himself into some trouble by started a YouTube page when they canceled his show, and he apparently has gotten himself into quite a financial hole. Last I
Oh.
heard, he wasn't doing so well, but he ended up asking his YouTube followers for money. So yeah, so he's kind of discredited a little bit, at least.
Yikes.
He was pretty respected before because he was the Catch a Predator guy. He was like,
Yeah.
so why did you come over today? That was a crazy show. The guys come in and expected to meet some girl or whatever, and there's Chris Hansen walking out from behind a curtain.
Yeah. When she said Chris Hansen, I was thinking of Hanson, the band.
Oh.
I was like, what?
Oh, wow.
Bop.
Yeah, up. Yeah, there you go. Okay, guys. So this would be the time to Stephanie. I appreciate your going along with us and naming some topics that you'd like to talk about. So we still would like to hear from everybody else of which one of these topics, if any, that you would like to hear more about. So we have Stephanie that a few of them spoke to her. So definitely please put your opinions in there. So we talked about red flags. Next one is need. So again, this is a pretty open topic. All the different kinds of needs people have. And because we focus on relationships, what kind of need is it that you have in a relationship? Is it a healthy need for someone? Is it a dysfunctional or unhealthy need? And even our own needs, what do we need for us, for ourselves? Welcome, John Don's Bop. He must have heard you.
Yeah.
Bop.
Bop.
I'm sure John Don's, that was one of his favorite bands back in the day, Hanson. No, it wasn't. Intimacy, that's a big one. I mean, what is intimacy? How do you have it? What isn't intimacy? I think there are a lot of talk about false flags or red flags. There's a lot of things that people think are intimacy, and it couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
I like that one. I like all these. These are all good ones. We could just put them
roll down the list.
We could put them in a hat. Yeah, we could actually put them in a hat and pick one to start with. But some of these are connected, like the dating online communication, red flags. Those three especially are really, really connected. So is control. These are all connected, really. Contentment. Yeah. What is contentment? How does a person find contentment? What do you do when you can't find it? How does that affect your life? How does that affect other people's life? Is it possible to have that in a relationship? And if so, what steps need to be taken? I would just comment briefly on that a person would need to find contentment in themselves first, and then it would make it 100% easier to find it in a relationship. A lot of people don't do it that way, though. They think they're going to find contentment in a relationship instead. I've done it. I've done it too. Not just calling other people out. I've thought that a relationship, a marriage, for instance, not this one, but the first one, I thought it was the end all be all. And this was going to be the thing that tied up my loose ends and smoothed out my rough edges. And that's not at all what it was.
Nope.
Passion. Yeah. Passion for jobs or relationships, for whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of things people can have a passion for. Artistic passion, that's a good one. Creativity and things like that. So that's a good one. Celine says dating and boundaries would be a good topic. Okay, thank you for adding that. Glenn's making a list. So other than these things on the list, we can add that one. Dating and boundaries would be a good topic. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And we have Jen singing Mbop.
They call it the song terrorist.
There you go.
It's stuck in all y'all's heads.
There you go.
Because you're going to read it and you're going to sing it in your head. And then it's going to get stuck.
I'm not. I am
Okay.
not doing that.
Darn it.
And Stephanie says there are many confused about intimacy and contentment and passion. I would completely agree with you.
Yeah.
So that would be a topic worth talking about. I don't know what this relates to, but John B says taking any pleasure on someone else's sin being exposed is a worry.
Ooh.
Oh, I see. He's talking about Chris Hansen taking pleasure. Well, you're not wrong, John, but what does that say about all the people that watch that show? I wonder what that says.
Maybe he's talking about both.
Yeah, could be.
Oh, yeah. That's not good.
And John says Jason and Jen have done some great chats. Oh, thank you, John. I appreciate that. My head's feeling bigger as we sit here speaking. And Liam says, bloody hate that song, Jen. Sorry. You can hate it.
I don't like it.
You can hate it, Liam. That's all right. We're not going to hold that against you. Closure. Wow. That's another big one too. Closure in relationships. What do you do if a person dies? How do you have closure if it was a abusive or difficult relationship, especially if it was a family member? How do you do that? Because a lot of people, they're no longer in the relationship, but they still carry the pain of it.
Yeah.
So how do you end that? How do you stop the living in the past relationship?
River letters.
River letters out. Yeah, see, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So if the person has passed on or you don't want to see the person face to face, you can do what's called a river letter, which is to write down your feelings and emotions and things that you would say to the person if they were in front of you, and never send it. I like the idea of literally finding a river, writing it down on a piece of paper, and you can even make a boat out of it. You could make a boat out of the paper.
Put it in a bottle.
Oh, that's another one. Of course,
A glass one, not a plastic.
Yeah, a glass one. Like
And then someone's going to find it one day and open it up and be like, wow, this person likes to cuss. Oh, no.
Closure. Okay, another one, forgiveness. That is huge. Whether you're a believer or not believer, forgiveness is a huge topic. A lot of people don't understand, in my opinion, they don't understand what forgiveness is. They think that forgiveness means that you stay with an abusive person. I've got to forgive them for the way they've treated me. Well, sure you do, because if you carry it around, it's destructive. And as a believer, we're told to forgive and to continue to forgive. But what I believe people don't understand is that forgiveness does not mean that you keep putting yourselves into harm's way by continuing to hang around a person who's consistently abusive.
Mm-hmm.
Don't carry what they've done around with you, but it doesn't mean you keep carrying yourself back into the fray and allow an abusive person to continue to do it over and over and over again. Stephanie says, yes, forgiveness and closure, big for me. Okay. Yeah, those two kind of go hand in hand, I think.
Yeah.
So forgiveness is a good one. Boundaries. Oh my gosh. Boundaries. People in relationship need to understand what boundaries are. And some people, they think that they understand what it is, but a lot of times boundaries are not just about them, but they kind of force other people
Mhm.
into something.
And people think boundaries are something that other people have to agree with or to.
Right.
And that's not true.
Thank you, Jen. Absolutely. My mother was an example of that. I think she got better at it when she got older, but I used to tell her all the time. We used to fight about it, and she would say, "This is my boundary." I'd say, "Well, your boundary has barbed wire fence on it." You know, it's like if you have the mental picture of building a wall around you, and those are your boundaries, and it's to protect you, but it also keeps people away, depending on what kind of boundaries you set up. Your boundaries can be defensive alone, or they can be offensive and hurtful to other people.
Hmm.
So that's definitely something we could talk about. John Don's asked a question: how do you forgive someone whose lifestyle is offensive? Well, it's a great question, John. What do you think? How do you forgive someone whose lifestyle is offensive? I would say briefly that their lifestyle doesn't have anything to do with you, first and foremost. It may be offensive. Also, I would say what I already said, which is forgiving someone isn't about spending time around them. So if someone's lifestyle is offensive, you can choose.
What if it's your spouse?
Well, I was going to get to that, but that's a great question. Yeah. So if it's your spouse and their lifestyle is offensive, I can't see a world in which you would subject yourself to that if they weren't going to change it for very long. Like let's say, for example, using Jen's example, you're married to someone who's cheating on you again and again and again. I would not be able to continue in that. So I would be able to forgive the person for doing that, but it wouldn't mean that I would continue in the relationship, keep putting myself up for that treatment. So boundaries is a good one. Secrets, yeah. Why don't you talk about this one, Jen? What do you think about the secrets topic?
You caught me mid-chew.
Oh, that's okay. I'll talk about it. So secrets people have from other people in relationships, not a good idea.
No.
Jen and I have a very open, authentic relationship, and I before we even got together, I told her things that I might be embarrassed if I never told her and she found out some other way, or things that I thought would be red flags for a person. Some of them probably weren't to her at all. I made a big deal out of it, but it didn't mean anything to her. But the fact that I share them, well, you can speak for yourself, Jen. Is it better to have someone share things with you rather than having them be secrets that you can stumble across later?
Yeah. Oh, way better. I was very impressed with you that you out the gate shared some stuff that you thought maybe I'd run away.
Right.
But, considering some of the stuff I went through in my first marriage and that my first husband shared with me,
Right.
as because some people, and for him, he shared some things that were pretty personal and embarrassing.
Right.
But unfortunately for him, they were used to hook me.
Right. Exactly.
Now you didn't do that. You didn't do it for those reasons. You did it for the reason that people should.
Yeah.
Getting it all out on the table, laying it bare. This is me.
Right.
So that when you're making a decision, if you want to be with somebody, you're making a decision based on all of who they are.
Exactly.
Not of someone they're presenting, yet they're holding stuff back.
Exactly.
Under the secret file. And they think, well, once I got them, then I'll share it, which I can understand why some people do. I'm not saying it's right and that I agree with it, but I can understand.
Yeah.
You think if someone falls in love with me, then I'll, they'll marry me, then I'll share this, and this, because, and maybe your point isn't even to trap them per se. Maybe you just think it'll be safer to share.
Yeah.
But it's still not okay. It's
It is
better to
not.
be honest and upfront all together. in the beginning. And you may lose the person. You may risk losing it, but at least you know they're making a decision based on all of who you are
Yes.
and not on part of who you are.
Amen.
So
That's an excellent point. Yeah, and some of the things I shared, it would be easy to look at that and say, is he trying to make me run? I mean, you said you'd make you run. And some people actually do that. Some people will tell you things about themselves, and the point is to make you run because they're afraid. They're afraid of intimacy. They're afraid of relationships. And that, again, ties into the dating online and online communication, too. People that don't want to meet in person. I've actually looked at this. This is a pretty common thing of people. And I understand, like I was thinking about an agoraphobic, like someone that is stuck in their house and they literally can't go outside. Then an online relationship would be like a freedom for them. It would be different than someone that's just is afraid of relationships. These things exist. These people exist out there that have a deaf fear of going outside. Usually because of some kind of trauma or something. And online relationships are a lifeline to them. So that's a little bit different in that way.
But Cripps, can't you look at that the other way and say, like I would have said, I would do that to say, put everything on the table and to really give them the opportunity to run, because if they decide to stay, you know that they're authentic in staying. It's it works the other way.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Good point.
Give them the ammo to walk. When they stay, it's for real.
Yeah. Good point.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And it's based on them deciding to stay based on everything, everything on the table.
Yeah. Also,
then you don't have to wonder, oh my gosh, are they going to leave if they find out about this one thing?
Right.
And have to live with that. That's awful.
Yeah. Hello to Uncle John. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Thanks for
Your
coming.
Uncle John's on?
Uncle John. Uncle John's on?
You didn't get it. You totally.
I didn't get it. Explain it to me.
I said, your Uncle John's on?
Uncle John's on? Oh, I get it. You're delirious.
I know. I'm so tired. Oh, good.
Uncle John asked a question. How do you stay focused on self-accountability to grow towards change after being a victim of spiritual abuse / trauma, or even being the perp of all the above? Wow.
Great question.
Wow, Uncle John. That's a great question.
Ooh, we could go into answering this. Or is it wanting it as a topic?
Well, we could touch on it and talk about it more, because that's a pretty big topic. So, Glenn, if you could put that on your list if you haven't already. There's a couple parts to the questions. The first one is, how do you stay focused on self-accountability? You could just cut it off right there, and that could be a whole topic. Why don't you comment on that first, Jen? How do you stay focused on self-accountability?
Gosh, introspection, and you definitely have to find a balance of that, because you could do that too much. But for me, I mean, I know some guys that like to journal, but for me, journaling, doing art therapy, talking to people that are safe about what I've been through, and
groups,
group therapy, talk therapy. There's all kinds of therapy that are really good to help you stay accountable to your growth and to change. Digging into the stuff.
Oh, that's great. I can't do any better than that.
You do the next part.
Yeah. Okay. Growing toward change. Okay. So the first part's about self-accountability, and the second part is to grow toward change. So if you're doing the first part, that's a huge step towards change. To me, you have to be devoted to change. You have to be in a place to allow yourself to grow, to change, to give up things that people cling on to because they're afraid, to have the courage to move forward in your life, throw things away that are useless to you anymore, or things that you've clung to in the past. That's a good one. So self-accountability is a huge step, because a lot of people don't understand what it is, or they can't do it. They always want to point the finger at other people.
Yeah, the blame game.
Being a victim is a huge problem in the world.
At large.
Blame other people for everything. You don't take personal responsibility for your own life, what happened to you,
Or your
Look,
actions.
or your actions. You can't control what people did to you when you were younger, and you can't keep people from hurting you necessarily. But as an adult, so I'm saying that as a child, you don't have any control over that. But as an adult, you do have control who you hang out with and who you let in your life. If someone's continually hurting you or abusing you or doing things you don't like, you can get away from them. If it's a marriage relationship, I know it's a little bit more complicated, but you have choices that you can make even within in a relationship to protect yourself. So that part's grow toward change. That's a good one. Okay. So, and then ties it up with after being a victim of spiritual abuse and trauma. Wow. I've experienced this a lot, Uncle John, this trauma, victim of spiritual abuse and trauma. I've really had it the better part of my life. Being involved in churches, it happens all the time. I told a story how I did something when I was 13 or 14, and what it was, I called I'll be very transparent. I called a recorded penthouse line with girls like saying nasty stuff and things like that. And it was more of a joke to me. It wasn't that I was necessarily getting off on it or something, but my sister and I would tell my friends about it, and we'd like laugh at how ridiculous it was. But I ran up a phone bill. And so my mother was beside herself. And so she thought it was a good idea to go talk to the pastor about this. And then after receiving counsel from the pastor, then the church that my parents went to, they decided they were going to go picket a 7-Eleven for selling Playboy and Penthouse and things like that. And the pastor asked my parents to come with them. They were getting a group of people up to do this. And my dad said, we're not going to go picket a 7-Eleven. And he had good reasons. He said, 7-Eleven's a convenience store. I mean, wouldn't it make more sense to go picket a adult bookstore or something? Wouldn't that make more sense to do that rather than picketing a convenience store? Whether my dad was right or wrong, he said no. So then the next week during the Sunday service, the pastor decided to use that example of people that say they're Christians with their mouth, but when it comes down to it, they're not going to do it. And then he made the statement that even their son, who was involved with pornography, even though that happened, they're unwilling to do what it takes to fight the evils of whatever. And he didn't use my name, but there were some people that knew this had happened. My mom loved talking to people, and I'm sure she didn't that was her fault that she told other people about it. But it was being embarrassed publicly by a pastor. There may be no agreement for confidentiality, but I would assume that if someone comes to you in private as a pastor of a church and as a spiritual leader and as a shepherd and tells you something their son did and seek counsel, that you would not use that in a public demonstration to embarrass a family because they don't do what you want them to do. So that's just one example. And the abuse stuff, it happens all the time. I'm not the only one, and there are worse abuses than what I just described. That's just one example.
Yeah. Glenn was wanting more examples of spiritual abuse. I just wanted to share this because I don't know people. I don't think Glenn would have come across this particular article, but supposedly Hillsong is getting sued for many reasons. But there was an article out recently where a bunch of people that I guess were going to one of the churches, they were just being used for labor. They
Wow.
were being pressured for serving the church, and they were, working in the church for free.
Wow.
for many, many hours during each week with different services and
Yeah,
coffee clutches and all kinds of
sure,
stuff. And they were getting burned out.
sure.
And there was some other stuff going on, but that's another form of spiritual abuse is, it being in the quote unquote name of God,
Oh
but
yeah,
you're pushing people past the red line,
yeah,
and claiming and even guilting and shaming them, saying it's for God when it's not.
right.
It's abuse.
Yeah, you mentioned guilt and shaming. That's a big part of spiritual abuse as well. It's
Yeah.
shaming another person because their beliefs aren't the same as yours. Expecting them, if they don't believe the same way as you, then somehow they're not a Christian, they're not a real believer, things like that. To me, that is abusive. So
Yeah.
that's another small example. It can happen in families in the same way. I mean, your parents can be abusive, or your grandparents, in the same way, guilting and shaming you, not going to church enough, or you're not living the way that they think you should live. Another big way is misinterpreting the Bible and forcing that on someone else, especially anyone in authority, and that would be a pastor or a Sunday school teacher or Christian school principal or whatever. I mean, any person can do that, but usually it's a person in authority. Even on YouTube. I mean, I know that there are plenty of YouTube people that call themselves pastors out there that are totally abusing the Word of God and uh, hurting people, getting people to follow them and trust them and believe them, and they're leading people astray. And so that was
Yep.
happening during when the Bible was written. It happened when Paul was alive. These false teachers, and that's a kind of spiritual abuse as well. So that's a big one. Oops, clicked
Hmm.
on. I just clicked on the wrong thing. Okay.
We still on?
Yeah, we're still on.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't shut anything off. I clicked on our show page and the volume came on. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's what happened. Okay. Did we finish answering that? Uncle John, that's a great topic, and I think that is something we could talk about more. And the last part I think is interesting, even being the perp of all the above. If a person has done all this and they want to be accountable to themselves and to God, and they want to grow towards change, especially if you've done that to other people, is to me is simply just first of all stopping that behavior, and in whatever cases you can, make amends to the people that you've hurt, and don't do it anymore. You know, it seems simple, but a lot of times it can be difficult, especially if you've been abused yourself, and it's a lot of that stuff is ingrained and you're indoctrinated in some ways. It can be difficult, but it's doable, I believe. Secret sensitivity is the last one we have on this particular list. Sensitivity. What do you think, Jen? Sensitivity.
That could go a couple of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Sensitivity. It could be a lack of.
Mm-hmm.
It could be too much of.
Sure.
It could
Too
be
much
either of those.
sensitivity. Yeah, you're too
Yeah.
sensitive. Yeah.
We were talking about reactive people earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that could play into sensitivity. Yeah, that could go a couple different ways.
Sure.
I don't like that as much as some of the other topics, but I mean, it could be really interesting to talk about.
Yeah. Some of the other topics are a little bit
More catchy,
more catchy. Sure.
topic wise.
Topic wise, gotcha.
What do you think? Sensitivity.
Yeah, I think that goes better within another topic. Like if we're talking about relationships, being sensitive to the other person's needs and desires and things like that. I think that's a pretty good topic in that way.
Yeah.
I think it's good stuff. All right, that's the list. We did get some clarifying things from Stephanie, and Uncle John came up with the topic. Celine talked about I forget what it was that she said, but I'm sure it was written down. Dating and relationships, I think, basically is what she was suggesting. I think that's a good one too. So I didn't see a whole lot more from anyone as far as topics to discuss, or other than Stephanie, I didn't see a whole lot of comments on what ones you'd like us to talk about. So again, you have the option of sending an email if you want to think about these things that are in the description. So anybody can look at the list if you didn't want to discuss anything tonight, and let us know what topics, or if you think about it and come up with something later, you can always come back and let us know. What you think. I think that's it for me. Let me just check and make sure there's no.
Glenn, did you want to add anything or ask anything before we wrap it up? Glenn.
Stephanie added, I would add backsliding, she said. Backsliding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Do that.
I think Glenn might have gotten disconnected. I thought I heard his chair, but maybe that was your chair. I think his chair.
No, it's not my chair. Oh, there he is.
Sorry, guys, laptop cam.
That's right. We figured.
No, I heard you. I don't have anything to add. I just wondered if anyone else had any general comments, and then we're done.
Cool. I wish I could do a really good Aussie accent and I could have pretended I was Glenn. That would have been really funny.
That is something you can work on.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
I've got bad news for you.
That's probably going to be bad.
And spiritual abuse is coming.
Spiritual abuse.
Hey,
Well,
Jalen just popped in. Jalen, before we go, if you have any ideas for topics, anything that you would like us to discuss, feel free to jot it in the chat. She just popped back in.
Okay, great. Yeah, pop it in the chat, or send us an email. No, that's an option as well. No problem at all. It's good to see you. Glad you stopped by. That's just a short impromptu. Well, it's not impromptu because we scheduled it, but it's not the regular programming. We just wanted to see if anybody had anything to say about the ideas that we're talking about doing broadcasts about. So definitely appreciate everyone coming by, and we will be back again Sunday, and we're excited about that. And I hope everyone has a good rest of the week. And we'll start out with Glenn. Say goodbye to the people, Glenn. Oh, Annette just popped in too. So Annette, in the description, Annette and Jalen, in the description for this video, there are some topics to discuss for TSL. So if you look over that and see anything that you would like us to discuss, any of those sound good to you, then please let us know. You can put it up in the chat. She says she loves all the topics. Okay, that makes sense. Journey's Wake, hello. Hello, Cripson, Jen, and Glenn. Been listening, great broadcast. I'm at work, sorry, can't chat much. Peace, everyone. Yeah, no problem. Journey's Wake, thank you for listening. Appreciate that. It's good to see you in that. Still praying about your recent loss. So I know how that is.
Yeah.
To lose someone close to you, family member. That's tough. So same thing with you, Annette. If you get a chance, take a look at the list in the description. Jalen says, I can talk about dating apps. Well, that's good. Yeah. A lot of us have had experience with that in some way.
I have never been on one, ever.
Never been on
that
dating
weird?
yet?
No.
It's not weird. You got married pretty early on. And back then, the dating apps weren't that big of a deal. When you got married, I don't think.
That's true.
I mean, they weren't as big as they are now. Let's put it that way.
No way different. No photos. Nothing.
What?
Oh yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
back then, no photos. I was like, what do you mean now? That's not true.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't a meat market. It was basically introduce yourself, pay whatever it costs. Like it cost me 80 cents to meet Sandra. That's
Right.
going to be the best 80 cents I ever spent.
Yeah.
And it costs you probably about $400 now.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't
It
know.
does. It does. After I met Jen, and she was at the time married, and Glenn was encouraging me to get back out there and try to open myself up to relationships, and I really didn't want to. But after meeting Jen, I thought, well, if there's one person out there that I feel like would make a really good person for me, then there's got to be another. So I took a look, and there are some things that you can do for free in a dating app, but if you want to really communicate with a person through the app, you have to pay for it. And I could not believe how expensive it was. It's ridiculously expensive, just crazy.
How expensive?
Well, like it's eHarmony is like $40 a month.
Ooh.
That's the one you
I thought it was free.
No, it's free for, like I said, a portion of it's free.
Yeah.
Like you can look at other people's profiles for free. Okay. But if you want to communicate, if you want to go through their whole process with them, then you have to pay in order to take the next steps. They all do that in some way. I'm sure there are some out there that are free. But those would be the really low tier ones, I think.
Yeah.
So, Cripps, what if you don't want a psychological profile and a personality analysis? Can you just contact someone and talk, or you've got a process you've got to go through where they, basically put you through a meat grinder?
Well, you can't. A lot of the sites, if you put your email in it, like if you do a profile and say, hey, I don't want to pay the money and here's my email, people even try to get around that by doing like in the middle of a sentence and do it in bold letters so people can, you can clearly see that they're doing an email, like it ends with .com or whatever. So you can see that that's what they're doing, but they'll shut it down. It's like they don't allow you to give someone the contact. So how are you going to get the contact information from someone within the app?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's impossible, but it would be difficult to do that. I mean, more difficult. So they try to get the point is they try to get you to pay for the service. But I guess it's possible in some ways in that if someone finds a way to get someone their contact information within the profile, then if they contacted you, that would work. But then you put your email out there for anybody, and anybody that sees that can contact you. But to talk to them directly and let them know what your contact information is way more difficult. Anyway, the point is that's definitely a topic that we can talk about, and I'm sure people have stories that they can share. Okay, I think we're going to shut it down. My babe needs to get to bed. She had a rough day, and you got one more before the weekend.
One more.
Okay. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We appreciate any suggestions about topics moving forward. And it's good to see everybody. Jaylan, Annette, John B. Good to see you. Stephanie, of course, who actually gave us a lot of feedback as to what topics she would like to hear us talk about. John Dons, Uncle John. Good to see you guys. Let's see who else. Make sure I get Liam. Glad you were here. I already said Stephanie. Celine was here. I don't know if she's still here, but she was here at the beginning. And Journey's Wake popped in. I understand you're at work and can't comment. Janet's here, and we understand why she's not commenting. Janet is someone that would probably have something to say about some of the topics. So Janet, if you're able to hear this, even after the fact, if you have our email and stuff. So if you have topics that you would like to hear discussed, she's actually the one that had us talk about narcissism. So that's good. All right, guys, we're done for tonight. Be back again Sunday at 9 p.m. Hope everyone has a great week. And until then, good night and God bless. Thanks for joining.